If I stick with $5,000 gold and I'm conservative in terms of, in a mania phase, a peak of some kind, and that's really what I'm talking about, of the gold silver ratio, not even having to reach 15, but let's say half of that, 30. So if you have $5,000 gold and you have 30 on the gold silver ratio, then you're looking at $150 silver. And if you're talking about something like 30 30 or so, then $10,000 gold, let's say, would bring you to $300 silver.
Hmm.
These are indicators that I think are quite reasonable.
As global economic tensions rise, analysts forecast significant price increases for gold and silver. During a market frenzy, PeterKrauth, a seasoned commodities analyst with over 20 years of experience, envisions gold surging to $5,000 per ounce. Krauth, editor of the Silver Stock Investor and author of The Great Silver Bull, applies a conservative gold-to-silver ratio of 30-to-1 in this projection, suggesting silver could reach approximately $150 per ounce. Other prominent financial experts support this outlook. Robert Kiyosaki, a well-known author and investor, expects gold to climb to $3,700 in 2024 and $5,000 by 2025. Kiyosaki warns of a potential economic downturn. A giant crash is coming. Depression is possible. The Fed will be forced to print billions in fake money. By 2025, gold will reach $5,000. According to Krauth, if gold reaches $10,000 and the gold-to-silver ratio remains around 30-to-1, silver could rise to $300 per ounce. PeterKrauth views these projections as reasonable, considering historical patterns and the potential for a more substantial secular bull market in precious metals. Similarly, GoldIRAExplained.com forecasts that silver will average $330 per ounce by 2030, reflecting a significant anticipated increase in its value. Gold has increased by over 20% year-to-date, while silver has risen by 17%. If the gold-to-silver ratio indicates that silver is nearing a bottom, a shift in market leadership between the two metals could be imminent. FX Empire highlights that the gold-silver ratio is approaching a peak, suggesting that silver's recent decline may end and signal a possible change in market dynamics. Before diving into the potential gold price forecasts and market insights, subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, and share this with anyone who might benefit from it.
If we're talking about $20,000 gold, I would agree that it's probably, I think it's likely going to be in pretty dire situation. But I can only speak for what I expect to see happen, and I've been saying since probably about 15 years actually, that I think ultimately we're going to see a $5,000 price for gold. We're halfway there now. And when I wrote my book, really, I was doing the research and saw that highly accomplished, highly respected analysts that have a proven track record are calling for $10,000 gold. Those are probably not the nicest, the most friendly circumstances either to see gold reach $10,000. But how I got to my target of 300 on silver was I said, okay, I think a reasonable target in gold is 5,000. I still am convinced we're going to see that. And so I looked at multiple indicators, and I think probably, sort of the simplest one to dial back to and consider is the gold silver ratio.
Mm.
And so I asked myself, well, okay, what's reasonable? And if the gold silver ratio reached actually below 15 back in January of 1980 when silver peaked at 50. Gold was about 850. So I said to myself, if you have to make some assumptions, and one of my main assumptions was gold reaching 5,000. And again, as I say, I feel that's reasonable because others who know a lot and have done a lot of research and backed research and say, we're going to see more like 10,000. So if I stick with $5,000 gold and I'm conservative in terms of, in a mania phase, a peak of some kind, and that's really what I'm talking about, of the gold silver ratio, not even having to reach 15, but let's say half of that, 30. So if you have $5,000 gold and you have 30, then you're looking at $150 silver. And if you're talking about something like 30 or so, then $10,000 gold, let's say, would bring you to $300 silver. These are indicators that I think are quite reasonable. There are others. I look at the Dow silver ratio. I look at for example, the U.S. average home price to silver ratio, and all of these different ratios. When I look at where they peaked back in 1980, and I think that this bull market will be, an order of magnitude larger. If I base myself on those prior peaks, which I feel is reasonable, because I think we're going to have a much bigger secular bull market this time, then that's why I keep getting back to this target of $300 silver. And again, I say that this is something that is likely, but likely in a mania phase, because you can imagine this is going to wreak havoc on industry, which increasingly relies on more and more silver in all kinds of applications, electronics, solar. We can talk about all of that, but so that's why it's going to wreak havoc on industry. I don't expect it would be a long-term kind of thing price-wise, but I do think in a mania phase we can reach $300 silver.
PeterKrauth draws compelling parallels between today's market and the 1970s, viewing the latter as the most relevant historical analogy. Following the US dollar's decoupling from gold in that decade, gold prices surged by about 1,400%, and silver soared by 3,700%, with much of silver's increase occurring. From 1971 to 1978, the average price of silver for investors was $3.21, reflecting a 71% increase from the late 1960s. 1,971 silver averaged $1.55 per ounce, rising to $4.71 by 1974, and fluctuating between $4.35 and $5.40 over the next 4 years. During this period, gold prices soared from $35 to $850 per ounce, driven by oil crises, rampant inflation, and international conflicts. Krauth observes that interim bull markets for gold and silver have emerged since then, with silver consistently outperforming gold during these phases. He anticipates that both metals will likely peak during a mania phase, potentially triggered by a crisis. Let's get back to the video.
As far as where silver's going, I don't think we're ever going to see 20 again. I really do not. That's like that would be about 33% correction. I shouldn't say never. Some kind of a severe crisis hits. We saw it back in the financial crisis. We saw it. I was just looking at some of those numbers yesterday with gold. Actually, it went from near 1,000 to right around 700 in a span of maybe, I don't know, it was about a month and a half or so it took roughly. And then when you look at what silver did when COVID hit, I remember very clearly, because it went from about $16 just prior to COVID to about $12. But then silver turned around pretty dramatically and rallied really hard from $12 to $30, and that offered a 140% return to investors. So I think that, again, never say never. It's possible that we could see something like a $20 silver. I just think it's improbable. It would take extreme circumstances that are always possible, but I think the bias is to the upside. As far as getting towards my target, we've got to get through 31st, but that's a 10x from there. I really think that this is kind of a new paradigm. If you look at some fantastic work by a colleague of mine, Jordan Roy Byrne, he does fantastic technical analysis. And he called this silver bull market and the eventual breakout in silver as one of the most, I guess, the most textbook and most dramatic and the most meaningful technical breakouts ultimately when we get it of all time, because we have this cup and handle formation, which started with silver at $50 back in 1980. It hasn't exceeded it, but touched it back in 2011 when silver peaked at over $49 in April that year. And then we obviously have traded down and back, and now we're approaching 30. And when you see the formation of that handle on the cup, it is really meaningful for silver to ultimately eventually break past 50. And I think from there, I'm not going to say there's no limit, but the limit is going to be a whole lot higher. Just based on history, the analogs we have, the best analog we have really is the 1970s when, gold was detached from the dollar. or the dollar was detached from gold, I should put it properly. And then we saw what happened to both gold and silver. Both had a fantastic run. Gold was up, I believe, from memory, was about 1,400% in that decade.
Hmm.
Silver was up 3,700%. A lot of that gain in silver came in the end. So, and we've seen multiple interim bull markets in gold and silver, and in silver alone since then. When we've seen it in both metals, silver has outperformed, I think almost without exception, each and every time it has outperformed gold. What I will say that could be different this time is that we're likely to see a peak in both metals in some kind of a mania phase and in some kind of a crisis. I would expect correction, obviously, as things kind of the dust settles and things play out. What I would say is that given silver's growing importance in industry, I could see a situation where you may ultimately have a higher floor, let's say on a percentage basis for silver in the aftermath of that, just because silver is becoming so important to industry and becoming really indispensable.
Hmm.
So a mania phase that would follow gold. After that, I could see it correcting, perhaps not correcting quite as much because it's just so required in so many applications. There are new patents being filed like almost on a weekly basis for new silver applications.
Both gold and silver are expected to see significant price increases, with gold possibly reaching $5,000 per ounce and silver potentially climbing to $150 or even $300 per ounce, depending on market conditions. Gold has risen more than 20% year to date, while silver has gained 17%, indicating that a significant shift could be on the horizon. As the gold-silver ratio approaches critical levels, investors should stay alert to these developing trends, as they may signal a significant change in market leadership between gold and silver in the precious metals sector. Do you believe gold or silver will lead the market soon? Share your views in the comments below. As we delve into these forecasts and market insights, remember to subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, and share this video with anyone who might find it valuable. Thanks for watching.